You are listening to Imperfect Fifth, a podcast, offbeat conversations with music industry humans that we love. Today's episode is brought to you by Easy Visibility. Let Aaron Zimmerman be your visibility guide and visual storyteller, currently serving entrepreneurs globally. And by Double Take Productions. We have no tagline, we're just twins who have been taking photos, shooting and editing film, event planning, and more together since 2010. Be sure to nab your Rainbow Kitten Surprise hoodie or crop sweatshirt in our shop. Check out imperfectfifth.com/merch to see all of our current merchandise options, including small batch handmade earrings. Today, we sit down with Ken Kurson from the Lilacs, a Chicago rock band formed in 1990. With their first album release in more than 25 years together, it's safe to say we had a few questions. Our time together delves into musical influences, live performance, and, of course, unexplainable phenomena.
My name's Ken Kurson. I'm the guitar player and singer for the Lilacs, a four-piece power pop band from Chicago, Illinois. And as far as what we're about, I think like any band, we're trying to put a smile on people's faces and communicate a little bit and have some fun. And the big hook here is that, we had some notoriety and popularity in the early 90s, and then I moved to New York. The band scattered its own four ways, and we really haven't done anything for 20 years until this sudden sort of surge of activity in the last couple of years. So that's the hook.
So we're going to take it back to just the beginning of you, personally, if we can. And I was wondering what the first song or album that you remember ever hearing was, and does that work of art have any influence on how you approach your music today, or even when the Lilacs started?
We're actually talking from Chicago, which is my hometown, but I've lived in New York for, last 26 years. I'm back here visiting my brother and premiering my documentary about Cambodia. So your question about the first music I heard really does come back to my brother. My brother's like 5 years older than me, and he used to play piano and sort of make me sing along as he played. And he played The Who and Elton John and all the pop music on the AM radio at the time. So that's really what I grew up on, hit singles and learning all the words to Crocodile Rock, stuff like that. I still value that music. I'm not one of these old guys who hates everything released after 1995. I love a ton of new music, but I of course retain a special fondness for the stuff I grew up on.
And it sounds like a good group of people you listen to as well.
Well, I hope so. You're kind of you're sort of foisted. These bands are kind of foisted on you by your parents or your friends or your in my case older siblings. So luckily, my brother had some real good rock and roll taste, but I also have an older sister, and she'd kind of bring in the Andy Gibb side of things too, and I love that stuff to this day. I took my I'm a newlywed. My first anniversary is tomorrow, actually.
Oh wow!
And
Congrats.
Thank you. I took my wife past my grade school today as we're visiting Chicago. So we went past Hickory Point School in Northbrook, Illinois, and I remember that there was a like what we today call a meme, but I guess in 1978 it was just called a thing, where the tough kids in the grade went around to everyone and said, "Do you like disco or rock?" And I said, "Well, what's rock?" And they said, "Like sticks." And I said, "What's disco?" And they said, "Like she's a brick house." I'm like, I love both of those things. That's how I am today. I like all kinds of music.
That's good. Got to keep your options open. Have you found that and once again, we'll get into more of this later, but have you found that some newer music has perhaps inspired some of the stuff you've been creating for this upcoming record?
Great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, in one of the songs on our new record, The Lilacs Endure, one of the songs is called I Saw Her First, and in it, there's a reference to Young the Giant, which is a
Yeah.
current band. I don't know if you call them new, but they're at least currently on the radio. And when I first heard their song, My Body, I just thought, oh my God, it's still possible after 50 plus years of rock and roll to create a new and fresh sounding, rock song that still has a 4/4 beat and simple chords. So that inspired me. So I not only was inspired by that song, but it's actually mentioned in the song itself.
That is so awesome. And you actually, I know that you had written 2 songs on that upcoming album. Is Monica inspired perhaps by something specific here?
Yeah. So Monica is, that was a song I wrote during the, like in 1993, during the original heyday of the Lilacs, but we never got a chance to record it. It was such a good song, and other bands have recorded it. There's a band that got pretty big on the radio called the Returnables, who recorded it on one of their albums, but I had never had a chance to record it. And yeah, it was inspired. It's actually inspired, even though it's called Monica, it was inspired by my then girlfriend, then wife, now ex-wife, Rebecca. But the syllables of Rebecca didn't fall right, so I changed it to Monica for the song. But there's a lot of the lyrics are all about her. It's a very loving portrait of 2 young people starting to fall for each other.
Yeah. Was that the choice to bring that song back from the 90s and actually record it? Was that something that everyone was like gung ho on, or is it something you had to like talk anyone into, since it's kind of a not morphing. You still have the same Lilacs and like allure to you, but it's changed a little bit over the years slightly. So I just didn't know if that was something that was a discussion, or if it was just something that everybody was like, yeah, absolutely.
We all wanted to do it right away. We kind of knew right when I wrote it and brought it to the guys that it had, hit potential. So we all just, when we decided to do this recording, that was a natural one. And David Levinsky, the other songwriter in the band, had a great song from the old days called Blue Spark that we also had not had an opportunity to record. So those 2, Monica and Blue Spark, were definite. It was the other 2. We didn't even know if we were going to do 2 more songs. We thought maybe we'd just do a single. But when we started workshopping some of the new stuff, it was pretty obvious that Shadow of Doubt by Dave and I Saw Her First by me were going to make the cut, so to speak.
That's so great. Well, just what a wonderful thing. It's just bringing 2 worlds together probably for you.
Thank you, Meredith. It is an amazing feeling when things from your past kind of have new or sudden relevance to your present. It does make you feel as though this winding, crazy path you've taken on your life somehow makes a little more sense. And I think ultimately that's why people, go to high school reunions or want to see their family. You just want to get what's happening in your life now in some context of what it was like then.
So true, actually. What a poetic way to put it as well. Thank you for that perspective.
Thank you.
So I wonder, I know you had said that your first memories were with your brother musically, but was there a specific moment that you were like, hey, I'm going to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, there sure was. I was in high school. I just finished high school, and I was class of 1986, and my favorite band was called Green, who were a power pop band in Chicago. And I was all signed up for college, and I was a shitty high school student, so I was prepared to be a shitty college student. But hey, that's what everyone did when you turned 18. But suddenly, in July of 1986, literally a couple weeks from when I was supposed to matriculate at the University of Wisconsin, I got a call from Jeff Lesher, the leader of Green, saying, "Hey, our bass player quit. We've got a 6-week tour on the East Coast lined up. Do you want to audition?" I was like, what?
Yeah.
To me, that was no different from, Paul Weller or Paul McCartney calling me up. It was like a dream come true. So I instantly changed all my plans. I learned all of Green's songs, and I joined Green for the next 4 years. That was my profession. So to answer your question, I did consider being a musician my profession for 4 years, and scraped out a living, a crappy living, but I did make a living as a rock musician.
It's very rare to find, especially a story that seems like kismet almost, like it was supposed to happen for you.
You know, I love the word you just used, kismet, and there's a Yiddish word called bashert that means essentially the same thing, you know, sort of intended to be. And I really do feel like that call from Jeff Lesher was that sort of life-changing phone call that people get. And sometimes in life you're sort of scared to take that plunge and you regret it forever. And in my life, I'm not trying to prescribe for anyone else, but in my life, I've regretted far more things that I didn't take the opportunity to do than that I did do. When I do them, I almost always am glad I did, even if they don't work out, just for the experience. So I try to live my life saying yes to things. That's
a great way to live it. And so that actually makes me wonder, because you did mention the word I used, and you seem very poetic, very much a wordsmith. So I was wondering, when you go into the writing process, do you go in lyrics first, or do you kind of come up with instrumentals, or, you know, have it all in your mind and hash it all out together? What's that process look like for you?
Well, first, I'll thank you for that nice compliment. I've made my life, my living in my adult life as a writer. So after having, you know, written 5 books and countless magazine articles and been the editor-in-chief of things, I really do appreciate your saying that.
Yeah.
And for me, I usually do have a concept. I have something to say first. Then I'll sit down and start noodling with the instrument and look for a melody or a hook or something that's going to carry it musically. But my best known songs, I think the biggest hit I ever wrote was a song called My Sister Jane, which actually hit the charts in a few countries when I was in Green. And, you know, I sat down to write that, and it was about, wouldn't you know, my sister Jane. So I usually do have something to say first, and then I try and, you know, come up with some memorable or hooky way to integrate the thoughts.
I did want to know, just to recap for our audience as well, how did the Lilacs come to be? What's your conception story there?
So I was in Green, as I mentioned to you earlier in our interview, and it was time for me to kind of grow up. I'd spent ages 18 to 22 touring and out on the road and trying to make a living doing rock and roll. And I guess I was just feeling like, wow, it's time to actually go to college and figure out a real profession. And yet I still had the music in me. So I wanted to start my own band that would be more compatible with staying around Chicago and becoming a student at University of Chicago. So in the meanwhile, a close friend of mine called Jim Ellison, his band Material Issue started to get a ton of national attention. They got signed to a major label, and, you know, like one day they were playing to 30 people at Shuba's in Chicago. The next day it seemed they were on MTV's Spring Break or the Dennis Miller Show. So Jim, I told Jim, I've got this concept, I'm going to start a pop band. And he said in his trademark Chicago accent, he's like, oh man, I got the greatest name for you. I'm going to come up with your look. So he got involved and started mentoring us, and he actually named us the Lilacs, and produced our first record, The Lilacs Love You, and donated a ton of studio time to us. So he was instrumental in helping us in the early days, and that's really the genesis of it. The other thing is I really wanted a band of brothers. I felt that in the previous bands I'd been in, in Green, I happen to love and, have ultimate respect for the lead singer and genius of the band, Jeff Lesher. But, we always held auditions for a drummer, for a rhythm guitar player, and we try and pick whoever the best player was. But the reality is you're out on the road with these people. You're up and sleeping in the same hotel room, some crappy Motel 6 or something. I wanted to play with guys who were my friends. So the Lilacs really was, above all, a band of friends. And if that meant we didn't have the greatest players, and I certainly am not, then so be it. That's all right. The chemistry you get from it more than makes up for whatever you lose in not having, ace musicians.
And it is, the album that's coming out here pretty soon, it's your first release in more than 2 decades together, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, our last record was Penelope in 1993, and this record and 2019 is 26 years between records. So I guess we're not that prolific. We're certainly not Elvis Costello. But I think when you hear this, it was produced by Richard Lloyd, the great guitar player of television. And it was such an honor to work with him, and his interest in the band was part of what gave us the energy to go ahead and go down to Nashville and record this thing. I think you'll really find that it was worth the wait.
I mean, you say that he helped inspire that, but what really did trigger you guys deciding to do this again? I mean, clearly you all have like lucrative careers now and you're doing different things. So what was it about now that was like, all right, let's do this?
Yeah, it's such a good question, Meredith. It really was a trigger. For 20 years after I left rock and roll, well, at least for the first 10 or so, I get requests to get the band back together all the time. We have a lot of fans, especially in Chicago, but all over the country. And people would sometimes call and say, hey, I remember that song you guys did. Wouldn't it be great to get the band back together? And I always said no. I was so focused on my real career and making a lot of money and becoming a big shot that I kind of buried that side of myself. And then in 2015, I got divorced, and I started to think, you know what, I screwed up some aspects of my life. I should start saying yes to some things I said no to, and no to some things I've said yes to. And so just right as a coincidence, right after that, I got a call from Joe Shanahan, the club owner who owns Cabaret Metro, among other places. That's the big place in Chicago where every rock band loves to play. And we talked about the idea of getting the band back together. And I said, 20 years of saying no, I think I'm going to say yes, but let me call the guys and see if they're into it. And all the guys loved it. Everyone was excited. And then I thought, if this goes well, who knows? If it's terrible, if we're rusty, if we're an embarrassment, we never have to play again. But in fact, we were really good. The place was packed. Everyone was happy to see us. A lot of our fans were from the old days, and they look great too. So I thought, this is not embarrassing. I don't feel like, I'm going through the motions here. I had the right energy. The band sounded good. So, that was the first dose. I think we played 10 or so shows since then, and deciding to do this record is just another step in it.
And it's also very rare now with bands getting back together to find that chemistry again. So congratulations, because I'm really, really excited about this release. And I guess, what are you most excited about for this release?
I think I'm most excited about the opportunity to sort of introduce the band to people who sort of don't see me that way. That's everyone from my kids who, see me as like, some old guy who drives them around, to people who, I know in my professional career. I don't know if your readers are busy Googling me, and I encourage them not to believe everything they read. But, I've had this somewhat high-profile career totally outside of music, and a lot of the people I interact with have no idea that this was a totally identity-defining stage of my life. This wasn't like a hobby or, this person also juggles a little bit. I mean, music was everything to me for a big chunk of my life. And so now there's a lot of people who mean to come to me who really don't know that about me. So the opportunity to say, hey, did you see this record? This is something I did this year, is really valuable to me.
If you had to pick one song to perform like every night for the rest of eternity, which one would you not get sick of, probably?
That's such a good question, because the better the song, almost the more easy you get sick of it, because you're singing it to yourself all the time. But there is one Lilacs song called The Very Last Time that I really do love to perform, and I can sort of get excited to sing it each and every time. It's got a really monster hook in the chorus, and it really brings me back to a sort of a young breakup, and that special feeling you have when you're like, I'll never meet anyone else I like as much as this person again. It's an exciting time of life. It's an exciting song, and I really love playing it live. And a special thing happened with that song. One time we were playing it at the Uptown in Minneapolis, and Grant Hart, the drummer of Husker Du, was in the audience, and he's one of my favorite songwriters, and he's unfortunately no longer with us. But so playing it in front of him made me super nervous. And then when we were done, and I got to hang out with him a little bit, his friend, I don't remember the guy's name, had written the lyrics down from that song. As it got some of them wrong because you can never hear it perfectly during live singing. Right. But the fact that he wrote in his little journal, the chorus of the song I was singing while he was sitting next to one of my very favorite songwriters really meant a ton to me. So that's a song I really do try to work into almost every Lilacs set.
Yeah, that's nuts. So I do get a little off topic here at the end of all the interviews, which I guess keeps me on topic for the podcast. But when you've been out on the road, or, just traveling in general, has anything ever happened to you? When weird things happen, like you feel a presence or you see something crazy in the sky and you get like goosebumps. I just didn't know if you had any like crazy, unexplainable things that have happened to you that made you think like, what was that? Or like, I might have seen something, or, a place that you've been that was like super creepy, maybe that ghosts have been in. Yeah, I went there.
Absolutely. the answer is absolutely yes. I'm a religious person, and at this point, especially, among sort of educated artist type people, even being a religious person is some sort of, for most of human history, most people were religious. At this point, belonging to an organized religion makes you some sort of weirdo to begin with. But I can remember one time when I was in Green, we were driving up to Winnipeg. And if you haven't driven in those Midwest stretches of the Dakotas and central Canada, there's really no other road like it because they're so straight and long that they're hypnotic. Mm-hmm. Obviously Texas is gigantic and has roads that are super long, but there tend to be hills and lines and stuff. These roads, as you're headed north from the Dakotas up to Winnipeg, are hypnotically straight. And I was driving our van, and the Aurora Borealis was so brilliant that I really felt like some combination of supernatural and alien could be happening. And I really did feel the presence of, I like to think it was God. I'm not trying to push anything on anybody else, but it was the exact feeling you're describing, where you get a real sense of your tininess in the context of the world, and yet it's exciting, not scary, because you're aware of the power and the energy of the world. So that would be one example.
That's perfect. Thank you. So many people are way too weirded out by my questions, and I'm like, no, but like things have happened to me where I can't explain it, and it does put things into perspective. So I appreciate you delving into that with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's fun to remember that instant.
I did just want to know, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before popping off here?
Thank you so much for your time, for your thoughtful questions, your preparation, and for the audience. I just hope everyone gives the Lilacs Enduro lesson. It'll be on Spotify and iTunes and all that, so you can, I'm sure, sample it for free and do some streaming or downloading, or however people are purchasing music these days. But for me, the interest is just getting it out there, and I'm so grateful to Pravda Records for putting this out, to people like you for helping spread the word. And I'm grateful for this chance to reinvigorate the Lilacs.